I found this taco place in LA, and I want to know what people have to say about it, but I'm too lazy to read the reviews. So I wrote a script to do it for me. All right, so it seems like the reviews are generally positive and people like the al pastor and brisket tacos. They're also saying that the tortillas are soft and the meat is tender. So thank you, Python. That sounds pretty good to me. In this video today, we are going to learn how to get these reviews from online and pass them into a model and have the model be able to summarize these reviews for us so we don't have to read them. If you've played around with ChatGPT, you've interacted with something called a large language model, or LLM for short. LLMs are deep learning models that are trained to process, understand, and generate language. You can kind of think of LLMs as a tool for very sophisticated autocomplete. But instead of completing just a single word or even sentence, it can actually write you paragraphs and essays. It works because it's literally been trained on a huge data set, the text available on the internet. For example, the model that ChatGPT uses has been trained on 570 gigabytes of books, articles, blogs, etc. that you can find on the internet. And that comes out to hundreds of billions of words. For each prompt that an LLM receives, it tries to predict the next word, and we call these words tokens, and it assigns each token a probability of occurring next after this prompt. Then the model randomly chooses the next token based on these likelihoods that have been generated. Using a parameter called temperature, we can actually control whether the model is more random and unpredictable or less random. In today's video, we're going to learn how to go and get some reviews from online, and rather than having us read through all these reviews, we're actually going to pass it into a large language model and we'll get a summary of the reviews just like that. Today, the AI model that we'll be using is Google's PaLM 2 model. And we'll be talking to this model using the PaLM API. An API stands for an Application Programming Interface. Basically, it just allows our code to talk to the code that's actually providing the large language model. Let's take a look at the documentation for the PaLM API. Right now, I'm at developers.generativeai.google. And this is exactly the tool that we'll be using. So the PaLM API works very similarly to ChatGPT or some other large language model that you might have interacted with. So here, this example is asking for code to generate multiples of a number from a given list, and it outputs this code here. You can have it come up with some taglines for you. So this could be some input, and then the output would be certain taglines for these red delicious apples. So let's get started and generate an API key. So we're going to scroll up and we're going to click this Get Your API Key button. So this will lead you to a different screen, and you want to create an API key in a new project. And you'll copy this API key. I'm going to blur it out here because these API keys should be secret. But I'm going to copy this, open my code editor, and I am going to create a new file, and I'm calling this config.py. Okay, and under config.py, we are going to create a new variable called API key, and let's make that a string containing the string that we just copied from the Google site. So I'm going to paste that string in here. And don't share this with anybody. It's supposed to be secret. Now we are going to make a new file, and I'm just going to call this Summaries.py. Okay, so this is where we're actually going to be doing the coding. By the way, I wanted to tell you guys about FlexiSpot, my favorite brand of standing desks. FlexiSpot is having their biggest sale of the season, the Black Friday sale, November 17th through 25th. FlexiSpot standing desks let you sit or stand and everything in between. This here is the E7 Premium Standing Desk, and it's super sturdy and built to last. You can just feel it in the material. It comes with this keypad that lets you toggle the height up and down, as well as save certain positions such as your standing and sitting position. With the FlexiSpot standing desk, it's easy to sit and stand while you're doing your work. You can get also a bunch of accessories, such as this nifty little cable management tray, which lets you tuck all of those pesky cables underneath your desk so you get a cleaner look overall. This desk is durable, the mechanics are smooth, and it's built to last. FlexiSpot is having their biggest sale of the season, their Black Friday sale, and it'll be happening November 17th through 25th. They'll be offering lots of discounts and promos on desks and accessories. FlexiSpot makes a really solid product, so make sure you check it out. All right, the first part of this coding project, we want to actually be able to scrape the reviews given some URL. And we are going to use a library called Pyppeteer. So it's Python for Pyppeteer, which will allow you to load a page and basically query for HTML elements in that page. Now, every single website that you have, you actually can go and inspect it. And you can look at each element on that page. So these are called HTML elements. And you might see that each of these has something called a class. So you can kind of select what you're looking for based on these classes. And that's exactly what we're going to do in our code. So going back here, I'm going to import what I need from Pyppeteer. And I'm also going to import google.generative.ai as Palm. And then I'm also going to import a library called async.io. And then I'm also going to import my config file because I actually need that API key that we just stored in there. Okay, so save that. So in order to actually have these libraries, you have to install them on your device. So I actually have like the versions that you need in a requirements.txt file that I've put into this folder, and you can find that in the link below. You have to go to terminal and you have to actually go and install these items. So you can do pip install -r requirements.txt. And when you run that, I already have these packages, but basically that'll just install whatever you're missing that you need in order to write the script. And just make sure that you are in the right folder where we're editing this code. So I should be in the reviews summary folder in terminal. The first thing that we're going to do is actually create a browser. And we'll use this launch from Pyppeteer, this launch function that we've imported. And when we launch, we want to pass in some parameters. So one of them will be headless, true. So headless just means like we don't actually want this to open a browser for us, because that's actually what it will do. If headless is false, then it will open a browser that's completely controlled by your code. So if you want to see what's going on, you can actually toggle that to true. We'll also pass in an arg that will control the window size. Window size, oops, this needs to be a string. And this window size is equal to 800, 3200. So that's a pretty long window, but this is because we want the reviews, so we don't actually care how wide it is. We want it to be long so we can see more reviews. And then we will create in this browser a new page, and we'll set that equal to page, and we will set the viewport here to be a width of 800 and then a height of 3200. So basically this window size, and we'll go to the URL. So go to URL. And I'm going to paste that tacos URL here just so that we can start using that URL first. Okay, so in this Pyppeteer library, a lot of these functions are actually asynchronous, which means that it'll go and do something and not necessarily wait for it to finish before moving on. So we actually have to add a keyword called await in order to say, hey, actually, hold on, we need the result from this before we can move on to the next step. And in order to use await, we actually have to wrap this in an asynchronous function itself. So we can use the keyword async define, and then we'll call this scrape reviews, and we'll pass in the URL here and insert a tab for all of these just because that's what we do with functions. And we are going to stick this await keyword in all of these because we want to wait for it to finish executing before we move on to the next step. So await for all of these. And let's make headless false just so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. In order to run an asynchronous function, we actually need to use the async IO library, and we need to call it like this: async IO get event loop, and then we need to run until complete, and we pass in this function. So scrape reviews, and then whatever the URL is. So this is, I mean, don't get bogged down in these details. This here is just in order to run this function. So let's try this out. Summaries.py. Okay, so this is now opening this window over here. And you'll see that it automatically populates that. And okay, so it exits. For a split second, you can see that it automatically populates it with the link that we want it to go to. Let's go back to our tacos and let's actually inspect some of the HTML here. So if I inspect this, you'll see that each of these reviews, it's wrapped in something called a div, which we won't get too much into, but the class for that div, it has this like 6-letter keyword here, JFTIEF. And if we look for this specific thing here, you'll see that all of the reviews have this keyword in it. So what we're actually going to do is we are going to look for that item using our code. We will first wait for all of those items to load. So we have to do await, page dot wait for selector. So that basically just means, hey, like we want these items, but let's wait for all of them. And then once we do that, we'll actually query all of these. So page.query selector, and we want all of them on the page. So query selector all, and pass in that selector that we just created. So now we're getting these elements. So what this will return is essentially each of these items. So now we'll have all of these in a list. And now we can iterate through that list using a for loop. Here we can say for element and elements, we can wait for another selector, and let's actually get the selector of the review. So what is the selector of the review? Let's inspect this. And it seems like this my n-ed, this seems like it contains all of the reviews. So I will be looking for that. And the snippet that I want to get is this element, whatever element we're in. So remember that we've gotten all the different reviews and now we're trying to extract the text. So for that review, we're going to query for this text portion. So that's my n-ed. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but anyways. And the text from that specifically, we are actually going to pass in a string that represents some code. It'll look a little weird. This is actually part JavaScript, but that's okay. This is how you're supposed to do it. So we can evaluate something on the page. So this is just a variable selected. And now using the selected, we are going to get the text content from that. And the text, the selected thing here is going to be exactly this snippet that we've selected up here. So let's go ahead and print this text. And after all of this, we actually want to close our browser. So await browser.close. And let's run this and see what happens. So Python summarize.py. Okay, so I turned headless to true or to false, which is why we're actually getting this thing. And you'll see that we've actually printed out the text from those results, which is pretty cool. Although we kind of want to see all of the text, we don't really want this more to be there. And you'll see that if we go here, we can actually click on this thing. So if we inspect that, it's a button. And when we click on that button, we can see more below it. So let's look at what that class name is for this button. We have W8NWRE and KYURQ. Let's search for this, W8N. It seems like all the more buttons have this class associated with it. So before I actually get the text, I'm going to try to click on that button. So again, I'm going to wait for the selector, and I'm going to get that button. So kind of the same thing that we've been doing. So sometimes you'll query for this and it actually won't return anything because there's no button, potentially. So we actually want to check if there's a button before we try to click on it. And I'm just going to add an if statement saying, if more button is not none, so is not none, then we want to click on that button. So page.evaluate and button. So kind of the same logic as down here. We're going to pass in a button, and we are going to click on that button. And the button that we're actually passing in is going to be this button that we just queried for. So this more button. And because it can take a little bit to load, we are actually just going to wait for a quick sec. So await page.await for and then 5,000. Now let's see what happens. And I'm going to turn this headless to true so that we don't get that website, that page popping up again. You can see that instead of having these more at the end, we're able to get that whole entire string for the entire review, which is good because it's more information that we want to know when we're trying to summarize reviews. So now that we've been able to get this text, what I'm going to do is put it all into a list and then return that list. So reviews, and then every single time we get a new review, we're going to append that to our reviews. And after we close this browser, we are going to return the reviews here. And we want to assign reviews to whatever result we get from running all of this. Okay, cool. So that is a crash course on web scraping. But now what we've done is we've basically gone and gotten a lot of the reviews from this Google page. And we can now use the LLM in order to parse all of them. I'm going to create a new function called Summarize, which given some reviews and a model, it'll actually spit out a summary of the reviews. Okay, so back on the Palm API website, what we can do is explore the API, and we're going to read the guides. So under the guides over here, you have quick starts, and we'll go to the Python documentation. So this will just show us how we actually get to use the API in order to use Google's LLM model. So you'll see that, okay, we need this API key. So we're going to need this palm.configure API key.api. And this API key we've already put into our config file. So if you've imported this, then you can just say API key equals config dot and then API key here. Now, okay, let's pass here first so that I don't get this error. And then how do you actually get a model from that? Well, cool, we can just use their little snippet right here. So we can list all the models in Palm and then just take the first one. So that will be the model that we're using. So this model, we will be using model and then whatever the model is. Okay, so now we actually have a model and we can pass that model into Summarize, and we have the reviews that we can pass into Summarize. So down here, we can call Summarize using like these reviews and using the model. Okay, so how do we use their model? Basically, we have some prompt. The Palm API makes it really easy to interact with Google's LLM because this is the only piece of code that we actually have to call. So I'm going to copy and paste this into my code just so that I have like a baseline of where to start. And let's get this formatting correct. Okay, so we are not actually going to have their prompt. This is the piece that we needed. We just needed this generate text. And we're feeding in the model, okay, we're gonna come up with some prompt, and then we'll need to adjust a parameter called the temperature and the maximum number of output tokens that we want to output. So this is just the maximum number of words that we want to output. And then we'll print that result. Okay, so a prompt that we can use is I collected some reviews of a place I was considering visiting. Can you summarize the reviews for me? Okay, so that's our prompt. Now, how do we actually get the reviews in there? We'll have to add them. So basically for review in reviews. So I can append the reviews just by like concatenating the strings. And I'm going to add a line break before each of the reviews. So a line break plus whatever the review is. Let's print this prompt just so that we can kind of understand what we're looking at here. And after we get the reviews, I'm also going to print the reviews so that we don't have to keep scraping every single time that we want to test this out. All right. Let's go back to this temperature. So temperature is basically the predictability of the output of the text. So if we want more randomness, then this temperature is going to be higher. And when we inject more randomness, then the possibility of what's so-called hallucinating is also higher. So hallucination just means when the LLM starts to get a little creative and potentially when it starts spewing false information. So because for the purposes of what we're building right now, all I want to do is summarize, I'm going to leave this temperature set to 0. Okay, let's go back to terminal and let's run this. So we'll be using model bison 001. And remember that the first part will just be getting data from online. So that part might actually take a little while. Okay, so here, this is the reviews that we're trying to summarize. So instead of the reviews here, instead of these reviews, just for now, for testing purposes, I'm going to paste the reviews here as a list. And I'm just going to summarize those reviews using the model. Okay, and then the next part here, this is a prompt that we wrote, right? Like I collected some reviews of a place I was considering visiting. Can you summarize the reviews for me? And then remember that we actually have to feed the reviews into the LLM. So all of these are things that we're feeding into the LLM. And so all of this here is the entire prompt that we're having this language model understand. And then finally, we have the result. So this is the result. The reviews are generally positive. People like the al pastor and the brisket. The burritos are also good. Carne asada, maybe not as good as the other dishes. Okay, so rather than this, we'll just add a few finishing touches. So can you summarize the reviews for me? You know, you can even say the reviews are below. I want to know details. And the reviews are below. Okay, so then we have the reviews. I'm actually going to add an extra line break. So there'll be another line in there. And we will return, we'll just return the result and we'll just print that. Okay, so if we run this again, okay, we're using this model. The reviews are generally positive. The food is great, especially the al pastor and the brisket. One reviewer did not like the carne asada, but they said the al pastor is the best. Okay, so overall, this is a great place to eat tacos. All right, and there you have it. When we get rid of some of the stuff that we commented out, so if we get rid of this review here, and we can get rid of that printing. At the very end, we want to print the result. So now what we have is we can type in some URL and our model will be able to go online, get those reviews, and then summarize those reviews for us. So one last finishing touch is, okay, maybe we want the user to pass in a different URL every single time we run this. What we can do is prompt the user. So if I do URL equals, and then input, enter a URL, then we can actually now custom enter a new URL and we won't need this URL anymore. All right, and then at the end we can print the result. So how would that work? Let's run python.summarize again. So let's try a different place on the map. Let's go down to Irvine. And let's see what's around here. Okay, so there's this bakehouse. And let's try to get reviews for that. So enter a URL, we'll enter that Google Maps URL. And now we wait. We're getting this wait for selector error. So let's quickly go and figure that out. And one simple thing to do is just, there might not be a selector. So rather than this part down here, we're just going to put all of this into a try and accept loop. So if there's no button, then we just continue. It's fine. And we do this again. So let's paste this URL from back here. Okay, so here are the reviews for this bakehouse. It seems like the summary is a little bit long, but it specializes in Portuguese egg tarts, and egg tarts are the star of the show. Banana pudding is also popular, but it can be crowded. Okay, highly recommend. Now, something that we can do in order to make this a little bit shorter is rather than rather than have like 800 words allowable, we can just have that 300. And okay, maybe details was a little bit too much, but you could say, I want to know what people like and dislike. I want to maybe generally know what people like and dislike. I'm just gonna put that to the next line. And then the reviews are below. So now, if we run this using the same URL. Okay, so it seems like the pastries are delicious, especially the egg tarts and cookies. It's friendly, efficient, affordable, but can get crowded, and the parking can be difficult to find. Okay, great. That is all I needed to know. So there you have it. We've now built a tool that can help us read reviews from online and then summarize using a large language model. And I have the link to the code in the description below. Some ideas to improve upon this project are, right now we're only really looking at 5 or 6 of the default reviews. But something that you could do is, one, sort the reviews so that you see the newest ones first. And then maybe you can implement a scrolling mechanism so you can actually see more than 5 or 6 reviews. Maybe you can actually look at hundreds. You can play around with some of the parameters because it does run a little bit slow. You can change some of the weights and how long it takes stuff to load. And you could also, potentially even compare different taco places in a single place if you just search up tacos. Or maybe you can pass in reviews to the model and then your prompt could be, oh, which place is better according to the reviews? So those are all just ideas to expand, and this is a starting point, and I'm excited to see what you guys build. Don't forget to check out the FlexiSpot standing desk at the link in my description. And you can get an extra $30 off the E7, the E7 Pro standing desk, and the C7 ergonomic chair using my code FlexiSpot30. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and don't forget to check out the FlexiSpot Black Friday sale.